If you don't mind, I will take a glass of orange juice over ice.
Hello. Welcome back to the Ramen Shop Detective Agency's podcast. If you are listening to this in the audio format, this was indeed the 40 on Fridays podcast. Now we are called the Ramen Shop Detective Agency. If you want full context onto why that happened, it's not too deep, it's not too crazy, but the full context and story about that is in episode 0. It's the previous episode of this. So, welcome back, guys. How you doing? Hope everyone's having a good time. Have a seat, grab a drink, grab something to eat. Maybe you're eating a bowl of ramen right now. We are just going to be talking about nerd shit I feel like talking about. We're going back to basics, going back to the roots, sticking to our guns. And like I said before, I was probably going to do something Yu Yu Hakusho related still for this first episode anyway. And yeah, we will. We're just going to be going over my thoughts of the live action. I talked about it a little bit in the episode 0, but I'll give a little more, get a little more in depth with it. Talk about what I liked about it, what I didn't like, what I loved, what I hated, all the in between. And we'll have like a good little talk about that. Nothing too crazy. But I do have some quick news I want to talk about, just to update y'all. In terms of what I'm watching, Mappa, who makes way too many anime than they should, have been releasing an original series. That's something that's not based on like a light novel or a manga, something they have created in studio called Buchigiri. It's weird. I don't want to give too much context of it because I think it is best to go in blind. I went in relatively blind. I just remember seeing like the teaser trailer for it like a while back, and it had like no context to it. There was like no dialogue or anything. It was just kind of like music in the background with various scenes. The animation's really nice, which you can expect 8-9 times out of 10 when it comes to Mappa. The story's really weird. It's only like 3 episodes in as of this recording. And I would say, like, if you are a fan of JoJo's, you'll probably get a kick out of this. I don't think it's quite as wacky or bizarre, so to speak, as JoJo's. But it is kind of on that end of the spectrum when it comes to the way the anime tells its story and expresses itself via its action. The action scenes are pretty cool too. It's been interesting so far. I'm letting it rock, seeing where it's going, and let's see how it goes. So check out Buchigiri. I've also been watching Pluto. I know I'm late on that because that's been done, but man, is it good. I've been trying to catch up on a lot of animes, a lot of shows, a lot of movies while I have the free time, and been watching like an episode of Pluto a day. I'm like halfway through it now. I think I have 3 or 4 more episodes left. It's like 8 episodes. I've been watching like an episode a day here and there. Really good. I can tell the writing is good, but it makes me really care about the robots and like this borderline between like what it truly is to be like human and things of that nature. So it has been phenomenal. Everything people have said about Pluto in terms of like its positive reception have been absolutely true. So check it out if you haven't. It is definitely like a different retelling of the Astro Boy kind of concepts and storylines. I believe that's what it's based off of because it was a manga series before. Definitely makes me want to read the manga series. It is like a mystery kind of thing too. And if you know me, you know I love mysteries. So that's been good. On the topic of robots, I've been watching, I believe it's called Metallic Rouge. That one's been good so far. It's 3 episodes in, so I'd say give that a shot too. And I'm watching other stuff, but we can talk about those other times. In terms of games, I finally hopped on the Baldur's Gate 3 train. I've been playing it for like 2 weeks now, and I am absolutely obsessed. I get it. I get why it was Game of the Year for 2023. I get why it came out, even hearing the hype of early access, it's just like, holy shit, okay, I hear the buzz. Game came out, okay, I hear the buzz. And the only reason why I didn't buy it when it first came out was because it was kind of like that Elden Ring situation where it was getting so much love. Not that I was like, oh, I'm gonna be a hater, but because I knew the fact that it was getting so much love and what everybody was saying about it, I was like, if I play this now, I will play nothing else. And there's so many other games I want to play. And the only reason why I'm playing it now, because I was going to wait till I got through all my other stuff this year through the list, is because I have gaps in time before the next game I'm going to play on my my 2024 list is Rebirth. So I've been doing a New Game Plus of Reunion and Final Fantasy VII Remake. And in between that, so I'll do like a chapter, because the chapters are really quick to get through because all my stuff carried over. I'm just replaying for the story, not for the challenge. So I'll do like a chapter or two of that, and then I'm like, okay, I'll play Baldur's Gate 3 for the rest of the day. So I'm just going to be doing that until I'm done with my playthroughs, my replaythroughs, and then I'm just going to be on Baldur's Gate 3 entirely until Rebirth comes out. Then I'll be playing the Yakuza games, Man Who Erased His Name, and Infinite Wealth. I've been hearing Infinite Wealth is great, besides the New Game Plus being locked to buying a premium edition that's $15 extra. That is utterly ridiculous, Sega. We'll talk about that another time, probably around the time I do get to the Yakuza games. Probably have episodes based off the stuff I'm playing, like Final Fantasy, the remake series, Yakuza, Persona, because I'm going to hop into Persona 3 Reload, Persona 4 Golden, do my third playthrough ever of Persona 5. It'll be my second Royal playthrough, so it'll be my first time New Game Plusing that. Strikers, and then I'll play Tactica for the first time. On the road to Metaphor, I believe it's called Remetaphor Fantasia, something like that. You know, the new Atlas game that's coming out. New Trails game is coming out sometime this year in America. The first of the Kisuke series, the Trails Through Daybreak. We've talked about that. So a lot of games to play. And as you can see, I'm very fond of the RPGs. I did get Grand Blue Fantasy versus Rising. Great game. I never played the original launch of it, but everyone that did and has now been playing Rising has said they have improved the game by leaps and bounds. So I'll take their word for it, because I am loving Rising. I am still loving Street Fighter 6. I am still loving King of Fighters 15. When I have the time again, the time and money open to me, I will be picking up Tekken 8. You know I got to play as my boy Steve Fox, so I'm looking forward to that. Been hearing great things about Tekken 8. So yeah, a lot going on in terms of games, what I'm watching and stuff, but I'll get to them when I get to them. We'll have short little episode talks about that. And that's kind of what I want to boil it down to, less newsy stuff and just more like talking about things I like and enjoy, and also less about things I really, really don't like. Every now and then we'll probably have something around that. But that's what we'll be doing, which leads me into the discussion of the live-action Yu Yu Hakusho. Clearly I'm talking about it because I am a huge Yu Yu Hakusho fan. People from the podcast know that I love Yu Yu Hakusho. I talk about it every now and then all the time. Every now and then all the time. All the time I talk about Yu Yu Hakusho. I always try to find a way to bring it up. I was getting my buddy Ryan into it. You know, I try to get as many people as I can to watch the show. And even if they don't like it, I mean, you know, at least I tried. But for the YouTube channel, you guys know that Ramen Shop Detective Agency was built to be a Yu Yu Hakusho channel originally. And now it's just mainly a nerd culture thing that I'm going for, but we still will be talking a lot of Yu Yu, so what better way to start it than to talk about something Yu Yu Hakusho related, like the live action. The very, very, very divisive live action. I've seen a lot of takes all across the board, honestly, when it comes down to the live action Yu Yu. I've seen people say they liked aspects of it, but overall they didn't like it. I've heard people say it was all right for what it was. I've heard people say they actually really did enjoy it. I've heard people say they hated it. I've heard people give reasons for why they've hated it. I've heard people give nothing for really why they hated it. I've heard people give reasons for why they loved it. I've heard people give absolutely no reason for why they loved it. And, you know, but mainly the main split, I've heard everything across the board, but the main split I've heard is you either love it or hate it. So I am happy that we got this project out, and I'm hearing various different opinions from the fandom, from people who maybe watched the anime or read the manga a long time ago, and from people who have never consumed the media before, still have all these different takes on the show. I'm so glad about that, because I've talked about how, especially nowadays, I feel we live in a world where when it comes to media, especially with anime, the way anime culture is, I'm glad it's booming. I'm glad it's becoming more of a mainstream thing, because that means there's being more support to the industry, especially in the West. And I kind of like that idea that we can get stuff easy. It's because it's becoming more mainstream that we have the simulcast, the simuldubs, and stuff like that. So like official translations, and we don't have to rely on fan translations, finding a grainy YouTube, the days of YouTube where you got to find episode 24, part 1, part 2, part 3. Oh no, part 3 got taken down. I got to go to another person's YouTube channel and find the portion of the episode that I was on to finish. You know, those were fun days and we can look back on them fondly, but I'm so glad we don't have to do that shit anymore. But also, what comes with the territory of something becoming mainstream is that you have, you know, the fanboy fans, the kind of like poser fans that do it for the aesthetic and the cred. Of course, those people exist, but I don't think they exist to the extent people make them out to be. But then we do also have this pushing of just certain really like generic baseline trends or actions, like the idea of you either like this thing or you hate this thing. There is no in between, and that's been going on with everything in general nowadays: music, games, movies, comic shows, everything you can think of. But especially with anime, I feel like a lot of people, when it comes to anime, they'll either tell you this anime is good, it's the greatest thing ever, you should watch it, and if you don't like it, you suck. Or it's this anime is trash, and if you like it, you have horrible taste in anime. I don't understand how you like this. There's not a lot of varying opinions. There's a lot of solid YouTubers, like anime YouTubers, who still can give a very varied and nuanced critique and opinion of things, and I appreciate that. This is more going on with the general fan base. So that being said, my take on the Yu Yu Hakusho live action is a very, very varied take. Just to get it out of the way, I said this last episode, but overall, I did like the live action. I came out of it with a positive reception. I had a positive experience with it. I thought it was good. I thought it was fine. Is it great? No, not in my opinion. It's not great. It's good. For what it is, it's good. That's where I sit. I'm very in the middle on this. There are things I really like about it. There are things I think are okay. There are things that I'm like, it kind of bugs me, but I can let it go. And then there are some things that I really don't like about it, you know? So let's get into that. And then, you know, I want to talk about what I would change with it. So first and foremost, I think the first episode is by far the best of the 5 we got. The live action is 5 episodes. And it pretty much does this mutated amalgamation of early portions of what is considered the Spirit Detective saga of Yu Yu Hakusho. For Yu Yu Hakusho, for people who aren't big fans of Yu Yu Hakusho, the Spirit Detective saga is what fans would call the first season of Yu Yu Hakusho. So episodes like 1 through 28, something around that part. That portion, it's like from the beginning of the story till right before the Dark Tournament is what encapsulates the Spirit Detective saga. You have Yusuke dying, getting his life back, solving the early cases, going into meeting Genkai, the Four Saint Beast, and rescuing Yukina in their first encounter with the Toguro brothers. That's the Spirit Detective saga. It's called a saga because it's various cases all linked together in this one season. It's the early career of Yusuke. So they take early portions of that, and when I say early, I mean very, very early. Like not even half the stuff that happens in the saga. Well, kind of, because they're also they take the early Spirit Detective saga stuff, like up until like the second-ish case, and then when you get to the third case, would have been like the Genkai tournament. I consider that the third case. His first case technically is that very early thing where he first gets his life back. That's like kind of like his initiation, and then you have the 3 monsters with Kurama, Hiei, and Goki. They adapt that pretty well, and then it's near the end of that arc with the 3 monsters that it starts changing. Like the fight with Hiei is very different, and then they go into the Genkai arc. But that's when the story starts taking a drastic turn for its own kind of storytelling. And we've already had bits and pieces in the series in the background be very different too. But this is like the big, like, oh, this is different. What the fuck? And they do have the Yukina rescue, but they kind of mix it. They pretty much mix in Dark Tournament concepts. I don't even want to say they mix the Dark Tournament in, just little aspects and characters and things from the Dark Tournament, like Hanging Neck Island, Karasu and Bui are there, and it just kind of becomes its own thing from there, which is why I would consider this. Some people are like, oh, it ruins the legacy of the show. I don't agree with that. I wouldn't say it ruins the legacy of the show. I just consider this an alternate universe retelling of the story. So you have the main Yu Yu Hakusho universe. So I guess you could say, like, you got your manga continuity, your anime continuity, because there are differences between the anime and the manga, especially once we get up to Three Kings. There's some big fucking differences. And then you're going to have your live action continuity. And so I would consider these three different universes essentially for the same story. This is just the most drastically different universe. But the first episode, going back to it, is fantastic. It is, again, best of the 5 in my opinion. It establishes the early vibes and feel of what Yu Yu Hakusho is really well. By the way, if anyone disagrees with me, that is perfectly fine. Just be nice, be respectful in the comments. If you don't like it, you don't like it. That's fine. I'm not saying you have to like this show. I'm just saying come with like actual reasons why. Don't say like, yeah, it's shit. All live action is shit. Because first of all, that's not true. There's vast majority of live action that's bad. I will not deny that. But there have been some solid ones, and I think this one is okay. It borderlines in the middling section. It's not great, it's not bad, it's very okay. But I think everyone has to agree this first episode was really well done. The the scene where he gets hit by the car, like it's kind of different. There's differences, but they still pretty much tell that the same chain of storyline events. Yusuke, going through his day, being seen as like this hoodlum, getting kicked out of school, meeting up with Keiko, talking to him. Keiko's like, I wish you were dead though, and I was just like, damn, you really sealed this boy's fate. Yusuke does help the kid playing ball in this crowded street area they're in, but the reason why the car is speeding down the road is very different than the anime and the manga. The original story, this guy's just driving down the road really fast and he's not paying attention to the kid, but the kid also wandered into the street when he wasn't supposed to. So it's kind of just like, oh no, wrong place at the wrong time kind of setup. Freak accident kind of deal. And Yusuke jumps in and saves the kid after he warned him. But this time, it's just kind of like this crowded street area, and they introduce the Makai insects in this too. They take a role because of the aspects of the demon tunnel. So now we're even taking shit. It was intended, Sakio wanted to open a tunnel to Demon World, but after he won the Dark Tournament, he wanted to get a machine that could do it. But it's also taking that idea of like the demon portal being really, really fucking big, like in Chapter Black. And so the Makai insects, which, I mean, we've seen those in the Four Same Beasts, another little aspect of things being taken from an arc but not really being fully utilized. And the insect kind of infected the dude, and it caused him to drive out of control. And he's driving like a truck, like he's like a truck driver guy. And it goes into this street corner area where there's all these different shops and stuff, and people just walk around. So it's not normally a place you would see a car driving. So as it's speeding in, this kid just kind of stands there frightened like a deer in the headlights. Yusuke pushes him out of the way, and he gets hit by this car, bro, this truck. It fucking hits him. He goes flying, and then it like rolls him over. It's like gnarly. Like, I was like, holy fuck. And my roommate and I were just, we started laughing because it was so unexpected. I wasn't expecting it to be that intense. I thought he was just gonna get hit by a car and that was the end of it, you know? And that's how the episode, the opening of the show really starts out. Yusuke meets Botan. Botan's bubbly. Like a lot of people said, I think she's a little too cutesy and bubbly. She doesn't kind of have like that witty charm side to her that the character in the anime and the manga have. But I think overall it's serviceable. It's fine. I would have liked to see more of her. But also, again, I feel like the anime really utilizes Botan more often in the Spirit Detective Saga than the manga did. Like I said, she wasn't there during certain events. Like when they when Yusuke and Kuwabara went to rescue Yukina, Botan was not present in that part of the story at all. like Yusuke and Kuwabara just went by themselves. The fight against the Demon Triad was like so much more of a stomp in the manga than it was in the anime. They make it an episode in the anime, and they make it like, oh no, a little challenge, and they get around it really quick. So they already seemed pretty easy to beat. But in the manga, bro, they get like... Goku Mankin doesn't even get a chapter. The chapter starts, and he's already knocked down. Like, so, things like that, Botan's not really present for. So if... Could be a thing in season 2. Maybe they might use Botan more if they get one. I don't know the status of this show as of now, or if they even plan on it the way they laid the show out. But Botan was good. Koenma. Another thing people complained about was that Koenma was always in his adult form. We never saw a baby Koenma. But I'm gonna let that slide purely because I don't think any of us want to see a CGI baby Koenma. I don't. I really don't think we want to see that. And the CGI in this show wasn't awful. Sometimes it looked pretty fucking solid. Like, the scene of Yusuke getting hit by the car looked really good with like the edits and effects that they had. Certain like Goki, like when he goes into his like full ogre form, looks really cool. I thought they did a good job with that. But then there's some stuff that's kind of like iffy. Like the spirit gun looks a little weird in my opinion. It doesn't look bad, but I'm like, I don't know why they chose to make it look like that. I know people complained about the Reiken, the spirit sword, being blue and not the orangish yellow color that it's supposed to be. But I'm chalking that up to the idea of that they're establishing that spirit energy is usually blue and demon energy is usually red. I think that's what they were going for in general, because early Yu Yu Hakusho animation, like, people had energies of all varying colors. There were scenes where in season 1 where Yusuke had like red aura outline, and it wasn't supposed to be alluding that he was part demon, even though we kind of can use we can headcanon that together and it kind of fits. I don't think that was the intention. I just think it's early animation. They didn't really have those ideas locked in, kind of like how Togashi hadn't officially like clarified certain aspects of things in the manga, but it's not like a retcon. It's more of like, let me just make this clearer in an explanation with the Reiki and the Yoki. So maybe that was the idea. They're like, we're drawing the line here. Like, Reiki spirit energy is usually blue, and then yokai or demon energy is usually red. So I think that was supposed to be the idea of it. If they get more seasons and this is shown to be the case with other demon enemies that they go against, okay, that's probably what it was. Maybe like if they establish like season 2 and they take more concepts like Kuwabara's spirit sword turning into the Jigen Toe, let's say, like in the live action that happens in like a season 2. I assume they would just go straight for Sensui after this, and his Jigen Toe is the yellow orangish color it's supposed to be like in the anime. Maybe that'd be the idea. It's supposed to be like this technique that's almost considered on the class of like sacred energy, and then they can show Sensui's sacred energy and it's like that golden yellow color. Maybe that'd be the idea. That'd be cool. But this is me like thinking for them. So I don't know, but weird liberal choices here going on. But things that I did like, I'm just rambling random thoughts. Let's talk about things that I did like about the live action. I think the main 4, pretty solid casting. Are they the best at acting as the characters? No, I wouldn't say so, except the dude that did Kuwabara. I should have looked up the names of the actors. I am sorry about that. I should have looked them up. But the guy who did Kuwabara, I think he did a bang-up job. And as the number one Kuwabara fanboy in the universe, that is me. I think he did the character justice more so than the live action did. I feel like they could have gave Kuwabara more moments in the live action, but it's fine. You know, he still shows that Kuwabara heart of gold, so I can let it slide. A lot of people said Yusuke's actor was kind of stiff, and like he just kind of played this hard ass character and not the actual Yusuke being a smart ass. I think he did fine. I think it's more so the idea of that they show that he's kind of like this delinquent outcast, but he does have nice aspects about him. Like he's nice to Keiko. He'll do the right thing when it comes to helping like kids. Like he still stopped Goki from eating the fucking children with the orb of boss. And he still can be a good guy. He was a little tense. He wasn't like cracking a lot of jokes, but I feel like that's because the character in the live action, maybe they're establishing he's not quite opened up yet, because they speed through it tremendously fast, the whole Genkai portion, like insanely quick. It's ridiculous. Like, am I really supposed to care? Like that's one of the things I got to criticize for, but we'll get to that when we talk about Genkai in a second. But they even established that idea of the wall of emotions, him not opening up more and being better with that. And so maybe if they get a season 2 with Sensui, we'll see a better established Yusuke. He has more of like a rapport with Hiei and Kurama. The rivalry between him and Kuwabara has become more of a friendship at that point. Like maybe there'll be a short jump in time between the seasons. And so we can see Yusuke being more friendly with these people because he knows them better, and then he can start doing the jokes. But I think the guy did an overall solid job. Going back to Kuwabara, the guy who did Kuwabara, fantastic. I think he was the best at portraying his character out of anyone else in the live action. I think he did such a good job. He was really like loud and bombastic, and he still had that caring nature side that Kuwabara has with the friends. I believed it. Like, I was like, okay, he sold me. Guys, and get over the hair, please. Because they could have probably done his pompadour, and y'all would have fucking hated the way it looked in live action. I just know you would have. You would have found something to complain about because you wanted to dislike the show. The people complaining about it are the people who would have found any reason to dislike it. So I think that's why they went with a more modern pompadour-esque style, because that is a style of pompadour that he has in the live action. It's just more modern to the times that we live in now. But yeah, he did a good job. And while they changed up how he got his spirit sword, I still like how he got his spirit sword in the live action. So when we get to Genkai, we'll talk about all that stuff, because the Genkai stuff is literally just one episode. It's episode 3. Hiei, very edgelordy. Guy did it. The guy did the edgelordy thing. I know people were making fun of the dude's appearance. He did look a little funny in the Hiei getup. Like it was kind of hard to believe he was Hiei judging by the look. But I think overall, in terms of the character being represented in the live action and the way he was supposed to bounce off the other people, the other actors in the live action, I think he did a good job. I think it's less of the actor himself that people have an issue with, and more of like how the show was done in regards to Hiei's character and certain things that were done to receive certain things. Like the way he got his Jagan eye. Yeah, I'm kind of not vibing with that either. That's another thing I don't like. They didn't need to make that the thing of him getting his eye, but I can see where they were going with the misdirect of what was going to happen I think it's at the end of episode 3 or the start of episode 4, around that point where we're getting to the finale. But we'll talk more about that. But I think he did all right out of the 4. It's probably like my least favorite portrayal. And that's not because he is my least favorite of the 4. And before anyone says anything, I've said this before, he's my least favorite of the 4. He's still in my top 10 favorite characters of Yu Yu Hakusho. Don't get it twisted. I still really like Hiei. It's just, if I had to pick which one I like the least out of the main 4 dudes, it's gonna be Hiei. It's Kuwabara, Yusuke, Kurama, Hiei for me. That's the order. Speaking of Kurama, the Kurama did a solid job too. I think he did just as good as the actor that played Yusuke, where he was pretty stiff in certain aspects. But I think with a season 2, we'll get to see more of that like softer side of Kurama's character, like that. He's a really gentle dude, but he will not hesitate to edge you in the most horrifying way possible if you ever step to him. Hiei said it himself in the manga and in the anime. Kurama is the most cutthroat when it comes to like the 4 main characters. Like even Hiei has like some sense of honor in the way he fights people, whereas Kurama will be like, oh, word? Cool. I'm gonna keep you in this illusionary plant forever because of the dirty shit you pulled on me. That you done set me off. Like I kind of love that about Kurama. So I think the guy that played him for this point, I think he did alright. I do think it's funny that one thing I noted, like my roommate and I noted that I think was funny about the live action, was when Kurama's in the, you know, his classic getup of like his school uniform outfit with the long flowing red hair. In the live action, that's not his school outfit because he changes when he visits his mom in the hospital to like a different set of school clothes. So in the live action, I'm like, wait, is that just supposed to be what he wears? Like, so it kind of threw me off. And another thing I will dig it for is everyone at Yusuke's middle school, everyone's aged up too, by the way. So in the live action, they're in high school, which I think is fine. I don't really mind or care about that very much, especially since they're like speeding up the story event. So if we do get a season 2 and a season 3, it's probably going to be very fast, just like how season 1 was. But you know, in their middle school, everyone wears the blue. All the boys wear the blue school uniform, like how Kuwabara has, just kind of like a darker blue. Kuwabara's is like a different shade of blue, but Yusuke wears a green school jumpsuit outfit. But in the live action, a lot of people had a similar colored school outfit to Yusuke's, and Kuwabara's was more of the standout one. So I thought that was a little weird, but it's one of those things where I'm just like, whatever. You know, it's not that huge of a deal. It is kind of like, that bugs me, but you know, details. They've already made a lot of changes. But yeah, Kurama's outfit, I thought that was weird. But I will say, when Kurama had one of the coolest fucking fight scenes in the live action, hands down. Like, the CG was a little iffy here and there on that fight scene, but I think they choreographed it really well, so it worked. Like, he was whipping around, flying, dodging bombs, and I was like, I feel it. I was actually rocking with it a lot when they got to that. And then he went Yoko for our dub fans, but for the dub boys, Yoko Kurama, you guys know he went to his previous self, his full power, but he was the yokai fox, and that shit caught me off guard. I mean, we already knew it was happening in the trailer, so that's why everyone was like, oh, they're going through this quick. But that's the main 4. Botan, I think, did a solid job, like I said before. Yusuke's mom in the live action did a solid job. She's around. Koema's live action did a solid job. Sakio's guy, I think, did pretty good at portraying who Sakio was. They do play into the gambler aspect of Sakio a lot in this. Like he's always talking about like, bro, I don't lose bets, bro. And he puts the gun to his head and he pulls the trigger and it doesn't fire and shit like that. They do have the Black Club. They're just not as heavily mentioned. The guy who did Elder Toguro was awesome. He did a rad job portraying Elder Toguro. The guy who did Younger Toguro, again, it's kind of like the Hiei thing. I think it's less the actor and more so like the way they did stuff in the live action about Toguro. But I think they did an okay job with him too. It's just it does feel like they wasted a character because he's dead. It's season 1 and Yusuke already beat Toguro. The crumbling death scene, I think they did a solid job with that. Don't like that it was in a warehouse rather than the Dark Tournament's destroyed ruins. But what are you gonna do, you know? So I think the cast did a solid job. I think the fight scenes for the most part are pretty solid. The first episode, phenomenal. The second episode, really solid. The third episode, and then episodes 4 and 5, once you get past like, oh, this is gonna be really different, episode 3, I think are fine for what they were going for. So overall, I think the show did fine. Now, what did I really not like about the show? It's not a lot, but they're like big things to me. For one, yeah, I think the pacing of this is really weird. I think they took the idea of like, we're gonna mash all this together and kind of make our own storyline for this, and this is season 1. I think they were scared of getting canceled real early because, you know, with live actions, I've talked about the live action Cowboy Bebop before and other stuff of that nature. They're not received well. But then that leaves me to the idea of just like, then why fucking do it if you don't think this is going to work and you're that scared? But so I could be wrong, but I think the reason why they did it how they did it is because, let's say they're not ever getting a second season. This is it. They're done. At least they can say they told a storyline with a beginning, middle, and end. There's not a lot of like hanging threads. There is that Easter egg of like, oh, Elder Toguro survived being punched into the stratosphere by Younger Toguro. Yes, they still had that scene, and I'm glad they did it. Like I said, the dude who played Elder Toguro, honestly, best portrayed villain in the show. Like he fucking nailed it. But in terms of like that storyline of Yusuke getting his life back, meeting Kurama and Hiei, capturing Goki, Sakio, and Younger Toguro, you know, the important one, and all of that, they did it. They told that story and they're going home, and that could be the end of it. And if they don't get a second season, cool, we told a storyline. It's kind of like a really long movie. Like, but if they do get a second season, they still have plenty of material to pull from and work from and make another amalgamation of like whatever storyline they want to do, like their own storyline for Chapter Black. You know, they could still incorporate certain demons that weren't shown, like the Forsame Beast, various demons from the Dark Tournament, and even you know, the psychics from Chapter Black, the Sensui 7. That's where I think they would definitely go straight towards in season 2, because if they did like a full-on Dark Tournament in season 2, it'd be weird because Toguro isn't there. He is the linchpin of the Dark Tournament. He's the reason why they went to the Dark Tournament. Like, it's because of him. It starts linking threads between his past with Genkai, Genkai and Yusuke's student master relationship that kind of like layers over into this almost mother-son relationship, and how Toguro even like can see Yusuke as a son in a weird twisted aspect, and Yusuke in a weird twisted way looking up to Toguro at some points, up until, you know, the point where he realizes, I don't want to be that guy. And it's just a lot of stuff like that. So if they tried to do a dark tournament now in the live action, it wouldn't be very good. And like if without Toguro, and let's say, oh well, Toguro lives somehow, even though we saw him crumble into fucking dust. So then it just kind of ruins the moments that they used up in season 1, where Kuwabara, you know, takes the brutal injury and Yusuke gets the power up and Genkai's already dead. And then, I don't know, maybe Genkai will stay dead in the live action, or maybe she'll come back. Maybe they'll have a mass fighter run around in season 2 and do weird shit only to reveal it's Genkai and she lived. But she already gave up her spirit wave orb, so it's not like she can really like power down to her younger self, or power up to her younger self, I'm sorry. So it feels like they used him too early. Like I feel like they were playing it safe, but they were playing it a bit too safe. And that kind of sucks, because I feel like they could have done better had they not been as afraid. I feel like they easily could have done, with the way they were pacing things out, like kind of doing like whole arcs within one episode, but it still kind of felt all right in that live action lens. I feel like they easily could have done season 1 with the 5 episodes they had, and maybe, like, you know, it still would have felt a little too quick, but it would have felt fine, and I think it would have gone over better with, especially with a lot of the more hardcore Yu Yu fans. But I'll talk about that towards the end. Another thing I really did not like, so the pacing and the way they played it too safe with these episodes, didn't really like very much. This goes hand in hand with that pacing thing, but episode 3 involving Genkai, the Genkai training, they go to her compound, they meet her. There is no Genkai tournament. Yusuke goes, Kuwabara goes for training because he wants to be stronger, which is cool and commendable, and it does still feel very Kuwabara. But I did like the whole thing of, like, Kuwabara, you know, had always been psychic, and they kind of use that on the live action, but very, 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 to a very lesser degree. But he was going to see Genkai because he wanted her to use her technique to turn his powers way the fuck down. He was tired of seeing ghosts and spirits and being spooked. And then he ends up doing really well in the early parts of the Genkai tournament, the Genkai selection. And then in his fight against Musashi, he gets his spirit sword. And that's such a cool moment. That's such a cool culmination of things that have been happening to Kuwabara in the background of Yu Yu Hakusho. He hasn't really been a prominent main character yet. He's had its moments, especially in the manga, where it's just like, yeah, he's that goofy rival Yusuke has, but oh yeah, he can also see spirits, and it kind of spooks him out to the point where it's like, now I have a spirit sword due to my natural psychic affinity. And he starts really like fighting, and it leads into his character arc of being a man and what it really means to be a man in terms of what he thinks and what his powers truly represent for him. And he has his best moments when he actually relies on his abilities and accepts the sixth sense and all that stuff, rather than just brute force and swinging his spirit sword around like a fly swatter, except for the spirit fly swatter, the legendary technique. So it is different because Kuwabara actively goes there in the live action for training, and they just train. There's no tournament, and it's all in one episode. And I think it's supposed to, you know, take place over time, but it's all in one episode. And Genkai is personally training Yusuke. Koema set it up so that she would do that. And they still have the established like background between her and Toguro, and the whole thing of like the Yonkin demon, or is his name Yonkin? I forget his name. The demon that killed all of Togoro's students. It's all told and visual. There's some visuals to it in the past, but it doesn't have as big of an impact because you don't know Toguro, and you damn well don't know anything about Genkai, so you don't really care as much, especially if you've never read or seen Yu Yu Hakusho. So it feels really flat. And then Kuwabara in the background, his training is Genkai wants him to use a wooden sword to split a boulder in half. So he just keeps thwacking this boulder with the wooden sword. And they keep breaking and he'll just get a new one, and he does that all fucking day. That's his training. So it's a little silly, but the thing I like about it, it shows certain like actual aspects of Kuwabara's character in the anime and the manga, like that tenacity to not give up no matter how much of a beating he takes, no matter how much he's brought down. Kuwabara will get back up, and it always like stuns his opponent. One of Kuwabara's best traits is the fact that his opponents don't expect him to be so tough, to not go down so easily. Like, they're like, we're gonna one and done this man, and he has his goofy moments, semifinals of the Dark Tournament, where he's just so easily manipulated into a loss. But those moments, like when, even though he lost to Rinku in the tournament by technicality because he was wrung out, because Rinku was like, oh my god, this dude is still getting up, what the hell? Like Kuwabara always catches people off guard, and that in combination when the points in the story where he actually relies on his abilities are the best time for Kuwabara to thrive in a fight. Like, so the idea of Kuwabara, like, Yusuke thinks it's so stupid in the live action that he's just whacking this rock expecting to split it with a wooden sword. He's like, what an idiot. And it kind of represents Yusuke's idea of like, if something gets too hard, like, I could just say I'm not trying and I can get out of it. I'm not putting my all into it. And something Genkai calls him out on. And they fast forward through a lot of that in the live action because it's only one episode. But there is this moment where Yusuke feels like, what the fuck, dude? This sucks. And Genkai is like, well, then you can just go, you loser. And it's nighttime and he walks around and Kuwabara is still trying to break this rock. And he's like, dude, what the fuck? It's hopeless. And Kuwabara gives it one last victory screech, and he splits it clean in half. And what does he have? His spirit sword. Now people are like, oh, it's blue. I'm like, yeah, they could have just made it the right color, but who cares? I thought it was a really solid moment for the live action. It felt very Kuwabara. I was like, hell yeah, boy, good job. And it's like, Yusuke's kind of more motivated at that point. Like, okay, well, he didn't quit, and this looked completely pointless. So what's my excuse? And he actually starts putting some effort into the training. But it, like, again, it's very like, yeah, that happened. And then Genkai can sense Toguro is coming after Yusuke got the spirit wave orb, but he fires like a massive spirit gun. And she's like, yo, you guys gotta go. Like, and she just tells him your training is done, leave. And then Toguro shows up later that night, and we don't even see the fight scene. He just kind of bulks up, and then like he off screen kills her. We see him pull up, and then we see the aftermath of him leaving, and like Genkai's body just like in a crater after she got punched into oblivion. So I mean, she could be alive if they do a season 2, but if they don't and that's it, yeah, she fucking died right there in the same episode she was introduced in. So again, it's just like, dude, who cares? Who cares? Like, I don't know anything about this old lady in the live action. With the anime and the manga, you get a whole introduction to Genkai, and she's this grouchy old lady. She doesn't care who wins her power. It could be Rando, and she would still train him because he won fair and square in her. Well, he not fair and square, but he did win. And then she trains Yusuke, calls Yusuke out on being half-assed, so that's his first lesson in his first hurdle. Then when Toguro, who he doesn't know has a link to Genkai, like threatens the life of him, his friends, and his family, he goes back to Genkai to complete his training. And Genkai's like, all right, oh, look who came back. And he's like, I'm ready to give it my all. I'm not going to make excuses. I'm not going to slack off. And you can see that growth in Yusuke, and you can see Genkai like, all right, yeah, I'll train you, because she wants the best for him. And she also knows Toguro personally. And it's still something Yusuke does not know yet. And so that linking, it's so good. It's such good writing in the anime and the manga. And the live action just kind of misses the point of that and just kind of speeds through it. So it's just like, I agree. It's so forced and rushed and kind of lazy. And they didn't need to do all that. I'm trying to remember if there's anything else. It's just kind of small details. The Forlorn Hope looks like a fucking tablet with black fuzzy effects. The Shadow Sword is a dagger, and also that's how Hiei gets his Jiganai. He stabs himself. He cuts across his forehead with it, and it gives him the third eye, which is fucking silly. You could have just shown the Jiganai, and he could have like briefly brought up that it's like he wasn't born with it, and it's like, well, what do you mean? And he's being Hiei, so he's not going to tell you the full story about it. And like, if you get a season 2, then we can reveal more. I already mentioned the pacing thing, but once you get to the Haginek Island part for the Yukino rescue, while the fights were cool, I'm like, man, you guys rushed this too fast. Like, we already had Yoko Kurama versus Karasu. We already had Hiei, Dragon of the Darkness, Flame full power versus Bui without the armor. We had Elder Toguro toying with Kuwabara, and we've had the big Yusuke versus Toguro match. Like, it's all done. You just killed a lot of hype for stuff. So that's why I'm very middle ground about it, because for what they did do, it's serviceable in my opinion. It's fine, it's whatever, it's this alternate universe. If you watched it once and didn't like it, you don't ever have to touch it again. But I feel like they could have done more. So to close out before we leave, I just want to bring up, I think they definitely could have fit everything, or mostly everything, into season 1, especially even if they were still only getting 5 episodes. I personally think they should have gotten 8. Like, I believe the One Piece live action, I still haven't watched it, I know I'm lagging, but that was received pretty fucking well overall, and that has 8 episodes for its first season, and I think it's the start of the story to Arlong Park, which is still really early in the story, but that's a lot of fucking ground covered in 8 episodes. You went from the start of the story to Arlong Park? That's the point in One Piece where I tell people, if you've been watching One Piece up to that point and you get to Arlong Park and you're not like vibing, you're not like, this shit is cold, when the Straw Hats, when Luffy puts the hat on Nami and he's like, let's go boys, and Zoro, Sanji, and Usopp are like, yeah, we about to roll out. That shit is so hard. And they fucking walk into Arlong Park and wreck house. Like, if you don't like One Piece by that point, you're not gonna like One Piece. Stop watching it, stop reading it. And I don't even tell people to watch or read up until that point, because that's still a good chunk of story. But if you're like okay with it, I say watch up until that part. And if you're not like hype as fuck at that point, it's probably just not for you. That's what I tell people. Don't go any further, because it's probably just not for you. But I remember being a kid and I was like, yeah, One Piece is cool. I like One Piece. But that, I always remember Arlong Park being the thing that really made me a fan. And I'm not like a super fan still. I have my gripes with One Piece, but I think One Piece is still fantastic. There's a reason why it's regarded as one of the best out there right now. And that arc is just so good. It's such a good early arc. But I feel like you could have captured something similar to that if they had 8 episodes. But let's say we only have the 5. I still think they could have done the Spirit Detective saga, because they already did a good job with those first 2 episodes. So let's say first episode stays the same, and it leads up, instead of like, you know, that original first case, it's the thing with the parasite infecting that dude who's actually a nice guy. And Yusuke, you know, getting his life back, solving the problem. I think episode 1 is fine. They can leave it untouched. Episode 2 with, what's his name? Goki. And Kurama is like the second half of it. They could have done all 3 of them, honestly. I feel like if they chopped it up and did tighter writing with it and not drag certain parts out, they could have done the 3 monsters thing all in one episode. You didn't even have to have Hiei do a full Jigan eye transformation. You could have just, you know, wrote it in your live action story that he shows off the third eye and it's increasing his speed capabilities or something like that. And even doing like the Jigan Tai curse on Yusuke thing still to an extent. And you still could have just had that be the finale. Like, the early portion is the encounter with Goki. And then you had the middle part being kind of like that break point with Kurama in the mirror. And then Kurama mentions Hiei. And then at that point, Kurama knows Goki and Hiei have already lost. So he kidnaps Keiko. And then we have the finale. But I will note, I did like what they did with how they get Yusuke and company to go encounter them in the live action on the Hanging Neck Islands. Elder Toguro disguises himself as Hiei, kidnaps Keiko, makes sure Yusuke sees it, pisses Yusuke off. He goes to Hiei, who hasn't done anything to him since like that first encounter where he checks Yusuke. They have a fight. He doesn't know Yusuke's powered up. They're actually going blow for blow. Kurama breaks it up, and he lets them know what's really going on. I thought that was cool. I thought that was a cool use of Elder Toguro's powers, and I thought that was like a solid and believable way for Elder Toguro to sow chaos between people. That's something he would do, and I thought that was really cool. I do like that. Again, I'd still rather them just adapt the Spirit Detective saga. So, episode 3, they could have done the Genkai tournament, just make the earlier portions kind of like a montage and getting to the fights, maybe make a shorter tournament fight, maybe establish it so that there's fights going around all throughout the forest that they went through, and then Rando's revealed at the end after Kuwabara's already had kind of like a W with his spirit sword and he gets checked, and then have Yusuke power up and beat him or something like that. Easily. If we're already rewriting things, rewrite them to fit the episode. Episode 4, they come back and it's a Four Saint Beast deal. Let's say the insects have been spreading everywhere because the Four Saint Beast are causing havoc. And you could have easily just made the Four Saint Beast like 4 jobbers. You know what I mean? And it still could have done it in one episode. Maybe instead of going to their castle directly, they're in different sections of the city, like north, south, east, west kind of idea. So everyone splits up to fight them. So all 4 fights are happening at the same time. Kind of like how they were doing the fights and the things going on in Hanging Neck Island simultaneously. And they could have done it in that aspect. And then the last episode could have been the Yukina rescue or something like that. And you could have had an end credit scene where Yusuke's just making his way to school or he's just walking somewhere. And then Toguro, the younger Toguro, pulls up. He's like, "What's up, Yusuke?" And he's just like scared shitless, and that ends season 1 or something like that. And the reason why I think they could have pulled this off is because they already were making changes. They were already doing differences. They were already cutting stuff, adding stuff, kind of rearranging stuff and working stuff around. So you could have made it fit. Again, I feel like they were playing it a bit too safe. Now, if they had gotten 8 episodes like One Piece, and I'm not saying they chose not to have 8 episodes, it probably could have just been a budget thing. But let's say they did get 8 episodes like One Piece, I would do it as leave the first episode the same, make the 3 Monsters arc 2 episodes, so that's 3 episodes. Make Genkai Tournament 2 more episodes, so 4, 5. Make the Four Saint Beast 2 episodes, 6, 7. Yukina Rescue could have been 1 episode because that arc is always relatively short, and then still have the same end credit scene. So you could have had 1 episode introducing it, 3 2-episode arcs, and then like that epilogue-y arc concluding the Spirit Detective saga and hinting at something more to come, that being the Dark Tournament. And if they had gotten like a full 10, like a Cowboy Bebop, did Cowboy Bebop have 10 episodes? But you know what I mean, like a 10 episode situation, just make every arc 2 episodes. Something like that, just to add the suspense, or maybe even make episode 10 like that lead up, like Toguro returns anyway in episode 10. But I would have rather them take a break for the season and hint at what's to come. And that's, I feel like they had ways to make it work. I feel like they could have written it that way. I'm not saying I have all the answers, Sway. I'm just saying, in my opinion, I think it could have worked out. But that's it. That's all I have to say about it. So, well, one last thing I'll say. In terms of personal enjoyment, I had a blast watching this show. But being objective and just looking at the show, I don't think it's terrible, but it's not very good. It's very okay. It's very decent, very in the middle. And hopefully if it does get a season 2, we can see some improvements. And I'd be interested to see where they take this weird alternate telling of the story. Honestly, I'm down for the wacky ride. There's a lot of like 90s feeling cheesy action movie show aspects to it that I think make it more fun. So it's kind of cheesy in the best way possible. It's very corny cheesy in the best way possible. But that's it. That's all I got to say about it. Might bring it up here and now, every now and then, just cause. But those are my thoughts on the live action. What did you think of the live action? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Were you somewhere in the middle like me? Let me know. Let me know in the comments. Please be respectful towards me and each other, guys. It's just a show. It's not the end of the world. But that's going to do it for the Ramen Shop Detective Agency this time. Next time, what will I be talking about? I don't know yet. You'll see when I get there. Also, I'd love if you guys could support a story I'm writing called Another Random Tale. I'm doing script chapters now. I'm going to have a new chapter coming up every other Monday. So chapter 2, as of this recording, has been out for a few days now. I'll leave the link to that in the description, as well as chapter 0 and chapter 1, so you can get a start on things. If you like to read that and let me know what you think, please do. And I'll also link like the world map, the timeline, terms and definitions, all that stuff. Something I've been working on for a long time. I've gotten some people reading it right now and letting me know how they feel about it going forward. The ultimate goal, eventually, if I can get an illustrator and find, a good way to keep them paid and get a nice working relationship going, move it on to making it a comic of some sorts. I would love for that, but that's the goal. So check it out. Let me know what you think. I'll leave the links down there. But other than that, that is going to do it for this episode of the Ramen Shop Detective Agency. Thank you guys for tuning in. I have been Kyle, aka HiK-Up, your host, and I will see you in the next one. Closing shop. Bye.
Okay, now someone told me when it's coming that I could be your plushie, cause the love with you is something. A weighted blanket, sipping chocolate, neck and go and bumping. A crunchy roll, get cozy, my little story, what we watching. Don't worry, I know that you ain't one to start the combo. I see the way you look at me, the fireworks been starting. Ruby red cheeks, roasted marshmallows, how our fingers locked in. Watashi ni wa koku